back to Room 237, back with another review. Now, my last review was of the 1985 cult classic, The Stuff, written and directed by Larry Cohen. And I said I had another one of his films, an older one, that might actually be his most successful. I think it was his biggest box office hit. I said I was going to get to that next. And it's from 1974, and it is It's Alive. Now, I'm not quite sure where this was in Larry Cohen's filmography. Might have been... Alright, so it's not really one of his first films. He directed He directed 3 other films before this. But yeah, I've always loved this cover. I love very simple cover art. And also in my review for The Stuff, I kind of likened Cohen to that of Frank Henenlotter, in that he makes very low-budget films, usually self-produced, crazy, very unique concepts. And this one more especially because this also spawned 2 sequels. It's Alive 2 in 78 and It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive in 87. There was a remake in 08. I never saw it. I guess there may be CGI in that, as opposed to the Rick Baker costume makeup in this. But it's kind of similar to one of my all-time favorite films, probably a top 15 maybe favorite of mine, from 1982, Basket Case by Frank Henenlotter. Larry Cohen wrote and directed all 3 It's Alive films. Henenlotter wrote and directed all 3 Basket Case films. Now, obviously, Belial is an adult by the time the main events take place. But it is about some sort of birth deformity, them becoming a killer, and low budget. This one is far more gory and more of like an exploitation film. I love Basket Case, one of my all-time favorite films. This is more of like a newborn baby, like fresh out of the womb, and it's just this killer beast. Apparently, the idea for it came from when Cohen was, I think he was visiting a friend, and they had a baby, and the baby was having a tantrum in its crib, just thrashing and screaming, and Larry Cohen thought to himself, what would, if a tantrum baby had the strength of an adult, with that kind of anger and rage, what could it do? And then he came up with this idea. And kind of like The Stuff, kind of like Q the Winged Serpent, which I haven't seen for a long time, so I'm not quite sure how graphic that might be. But this did receive a PG rating. I think The Stuff did as well. I don't remember what The Stuff got, but I kind of see Cohen as almost like a gateway horror kind of director. I mean, you could put this with something like Jaws or Poltergeist or The Gate or, you know, something like that, because there's not really any language, no sexuality or nudity. It's not overly bloody, and all the kills are more so implied or suggested. We don't really see the on-screen kill. If we do, we see like the initial attack, but we really just see the bodies afterwards. And I thought this was a fun film. I had never seen it before just now. I have not seen the sequels. I do not own them. There is a 2-pack at the store I go to, so I might pick those up at some point. But it stars John P. Ryan as Frank Davis, who's the father. Sharon Farrell, who's the mother. Lenore, I think her name was. And then other cast members. One I did recognize. He was... Guy Stockwell is Frank's boss. His brother is Dean Stockwell, who was in Blue Velvet. He was in The Green Mile. He was in The Mist. He's been in The Walking Dead. lots of films. Andrew Duggan plays a professor. Michael Ansara, who people might recognize from Star Trek, he plays the captain of the police. William Wellman Jr. plays the family friend. And I don't think it is, but their first son, this kid, it won't let me click on his name, Daniel Holzman. He looks like Anthony Corleone from Godfather 2, which came out the same year, but he does look older. I doubt it's the same kid, but... And yeah, this was made... It doesn't even say what the budget was. It made $7.1 million, and I believe that was Coen's biggest box office return. Box office and rentals. But he did make a lot of smart choices with this film. One, to cut down on costs, he didn't hire actors and rent, cop cars and stuff for all the police. He hired real police from the town he was working in. No sets were built. In fact, the Davis family home is actually Larry Cohen's house. And when it comes to the baby that is not named, it's not named like Belial is in Basket Case. All of his creature effects, I was going to say makeup, but it's really just mask and puppets, was done by Rick Baker. I guess he contacted Rick Baker while he was staying at Dick Smith's house during the production of The Exorcist. And originally was just going to ask him to make a costume that like his cat could wear, or that you could put on like a chicken or something. But then he wrote it, and Rick Baker came up with this sort of arm puppet that had maneuverable limbs and eyeballs. And what really works is that this is really the most you see of the baby. Not as far as this scene, but like the shadowing and up close. We don't ever get like a full body shot. There's a couple scenes where the camera will be like floor level, and we see the baby crawling, so we see like its head, its shoulders, and its arms, which does make it look larger than a baby. And I think that was Rick Baker wearing like a head, shoulder, gloves piece. And I think that was done maybe similar to in Child's Play, when Chucky set on fire, when they had to show the full doll. So they got a little person to dress up like Chucky, but they built the living room set like some scale higher so that the doll and the little person would be the same size compared to the furniture. I don't know if that's what they did when it came to wearing the close to full body piece. But I did think it was a good idea to show less. And I'm sure that will be one complaint that this film has, is that we don't really see much of the baby. Both in terms of on screen or just how much of it we see. But even Coen said, to him the scariest movies, with monsters or creatures are the ones where we don't really see much of them. And this came out a year before Jaws. So anyone that disagreed with him at the time would eat their words the following year. Because, I call it the Jaws effect, where the little we see, the better. I've always believed that. And you pretty much get the idea. And since it's not really a movie where we see the kills and we see the aftermath, I think it can get away with just showing like the initial shot of the baby jumping out at someone. Though it does repeat a couple shots. Like the baby kills this one lady by like a beach area, like beach/woods area. And we see the baby like jump out of like this tall grass or something for like a quick second. But then later on, when the baby goes to kill someone else at night it has all these cuts, and that cut of it during the kill during the day is in there. So it does recycle some of the same shots. I think there was a couple other scenes where it did that. Excuse me, but it's only 91 minutes, and it does not waste time to get into it. I mean, within the first 10 minutes, the Davises are already going to the hospital for the baby to be born. Oh, also, the score is done by Bernard Herrmann, who's done everything from Citizen Kane to Psycho to Taxi Driver to, I think, both Cape Fears. I know at least the original. Twilight Zone. So, very accomplished composer. And I really like the score in this. It definitely has sort of like a childlike sense to it. It sounds like either a kid's horror movie or something where like a kid or a baby is the subject of it. It just has this almost, it sounds like a horror movie score, but where of innocence or something childlike is the center of it. So I do like the score. But again, and then I think within like the first 20 minutes, the baby's born, and it just kills all the doctors in the room, and it escapes through an air vent. And then pretty much throughout most of the movie, it's just what this family's going through. And we follow the John P. Ryan's character, Frank, the father. He's really the one that we go through the movie with. I mean, we see him really just immediately go from grabbing the doctors by the shirt, being like, find my baby, find where my son is, to when he sees what happened and that his baby did all this, telling the cops, it's not my son. Kill it. Do whatever you got to do. It's a monster. Also, and some people might call this lazy writing. I just kind of go with it. The fact that these cops automatically believe that a newborn baby did all this. Like, they don't do any questioning or anything. They're just like, well, we'll try to find the baby. And then, that's what they're going with. They automatically, from the beginning, believe that a newborn is capable of all this. And yeah, it has this eggy head, like the red evil eyes, two sharp fangs on top and bottom. It looks like it has like two really pointy claws and then like a thumb claw. And it makes these horrific noises. And it just goes around. I think it's trying to find its way home. But like, it kills the woman on the beach. It gets into a milk truck. It kills the guy in that. Which I do like that scene because the guy standing in the cab, leaning into the back to grab some milk, and it just grabs him and pulls him in. And I think that repeats shots of glass milk bottles falling out of the truck and breaking. I think it looks like it repeats the shot. And then we just see the milk just trailing down the street and then eventually blood. There are parts of this that are very well shot, especially, well, one, considering the budget and probably the small crew it had, but especially the whole climax of the film, which is down in the sewers. I really liked how that was filmed, how that was shot. And really, we just see like what this married couple has to go through. I mean, Frank works pretty high up and is pretty well respected in public relations. And because the police and the press put the Davis name in the news, like right away, because I think they tried to play it off like their kid was kidnapped, but we see that the first news report was, Davis baby's like mutated, killing, escaped, on the loose, and the media's going crazy. So because of all that attention, his boss, fires him. Which I didn't really get if he puts him on leave or fires him. I guess he fired him. So now, like, the weight of everything is on his shoulders. His wife is grieving to the point of insanity. His first son really wants to come home, but he has either his brother or a family friend looking after him, keeping him home from school and away from the TV so he doesn't know what's going on. And, the press just keeps hounding him. At one point, there's a nurse taking care of his wife at home, and she's asking all these questions, and then finds out the nurse has a tape recorder somewhere because she's like a writer. They find her out. There's the scientists that want to buy the body of the son off of him. Well, clearly they're going to kill it, but if you sign the body over to us for $100,000, we'll be able to experiment on it. We'll be able to test it, study it, and he agrees. The whole movie's pretty much saying it's not my son and wants nothing to do with it. But he is continuously pulled into everything because of the media. They keep pushing him. And I would say this is as much as like a social commentary or satire as, say, The Stuff. But it does kind of make a comment on, because apparently the wife was on some sort of a contraception meds, and the doctor that prescribed her says that potentially the chemicals that was in the drugs that was in the contraceptive medicine could have caused the mutation. But also it hints that maybe, some additives in foods or some sort of radiation or just things that we're putting into us, foods we're eating, drinks we're drinking, a medication we're taking, or just stuff out in the air that we're ingesting could have had this horrible mutation. Which, I mean, that could be like a slight social commentary on that. And then also that doctor is saying how when they find the baby, you gotta kill it, you gotta destroy it, because if it gets out that it was caused by this drug, then we're ruined. So I guess also just trying to say that, if this were to come out today, that guy would be wearing like a shirt that says Big Pharma. He would kill a baby to cover his own ass or some stupid shit. And it's really just building towards the baby kind of finding its way home and what the family will do. Now, can I recommend this? Well, I thought it was a very good paced, well acted, especially by John Ryan. I really, you can feel the frustration, and then at the end you can really feel his sadness. I think he did a really good job. He's definitely the best performance of the whole film. He does help carry the whole film. It is well shot. There are more sequences that stand out than others. I don't think it's slow paced at all. It doesn't bother me how little we see of the baby, or the fact that not a whole lot of people get killed. I mean, there's the woman outside, milkman, of course, all the doctors and nurses in the very beginning. There's a cop in a school, and then I think the death at the very end. Oh, one other person, and then I think the death at the very end. So, like 5 individuals in the group of doctors in the beginning. The fact that we don't even really see any of the deaths, we just see the initial attack and then the aftermath, that doesn't really bother me. I mean, for a PG rating, it's, I would say it's good. It does have its share of blood in it, regardless. And I could see this as a decent sort of gateway horror film. I mean, it's not overly graphic in any way. But I thought it was fun, interesting, and entertaining. But Uh, so now I'll get into spoilers, but there's another point where, because all the cops are now on the hunt for this kid, and they end up at the school, and this is the part where you see like it kind of crawling towards the camera, and it does look a lot larger. You can definitely tell it's like someone in a suit. In this case, Rick Baker. It does kill a cop. And I think that's where they get the idea that it might be heading towards the Davis home, because someone says, oh, Davis said his kid goes here. But Frank's wife is acting kind of strange. He's hearing these noises around. He thinks that she's brought the first kid back home when he said it wasn't time yet. And he sees that all the food in the fridge is gone. He starts to suspect that, you know, maybe the kids come here. He starts hearing it screaming. While at the same time, the kids got fed up. The older sons got fed up and runs from the family friend's house, or his dad's brother's house, because they call him Uncle Charlie. And runs back, sneaks in through the basement. He sees the baby there. Frank comes down with a pistol, shoots it, and then that's when Uncle Charlie comes down. Baby leaps, bites his throat out. Cops show up, and then Frank says, you know, I'm going with you. Has to be me to kill it. I want to kill it. I'm guessing because he's just finally had enough. It's now starting to attack within the family, essentially, even at his own home. So they end up going into the sewer system. And I don't think I've ever seen a movie where a car is actually driving through the sewer tunnels. Like, we see the cars driving, and I was thinking, like, this is a very narrow-ass tunnel. Like, traffic is supposed to be driving through this, but it's actually the sewer. They give Frank a rifle, and he finds the baby. And we hear it crying. It doesn't attack him. And I thought this was a good performance, because we see him frustrated, angry, ready to kill. And it doesn't show the baby. The camera just stays on him. And he just starts like tearing up, and then he's just saying like, I know it hurts. I know you're scared. And he starts to cry. He sets the gun down. And we do catch a short glimpse of the baby kind of looking up and then hiding his face. Based on everything else we have seen, even with what little we do see, it does kind of make it look cute and helpless. It does kind of make it look sad. So now we start sympathizing with Frank. He's having a change of heart. Because I think when he shot it in the basement, he didn't really get a good look at it. He even says that. So now he's actually facing his son. Can't bring himself to kill it. It's hurt. It's bleeding. Oh, and also, when he initially goes down into the basement, the wife tries to stop him. It was saying, the reason why he didn't kill me and why he didn't harm you upstairs when he first saw you is because he knows who we are. He knows that you're the father. So he wraps the kid up in his jacket, starts running through the sewer. And I really like how it's filmed. Like the way we just see the cop car with its lights coming down, or how it's like this sort of hood or a grill cam as it's driving behind Frank as he's running. Looks naturally lit, too. So I really just like how that sequence is filmed. He's able to get out, and there's all these cops around, and he starts begging them to, you know, can study it, examine it, but don't harm it. You know, it's shot, it's harmed, it's not going to hurt anyone. But all the cops are yelling, like, give it up or I'm going to put a bullet in both of you. And then the doctor that says you have to destroy it or else we'll get in trouble. The baby leaps out of its arms, latches onto that doctor, and all the cops just start shooting at both of them. And they die. Him and his wife then rejoice. They're led into the cop car to be brought home. The lieutenant or whoever gets a call, hangs up and says, there's been another one born in Seattle. And it ends with them driving off. So yeah, it sets itself up for a sequel. I think the idea initially was kind of like the Halloween ending. Give it, imply that there's more, or that this is something that's going to carry on. Not make a sequel, but it did make one 4 years later. But yeah, I thought it was fun, enjoyable. I would say I enjoy this a lot more. Again, very different films, but when you consider some sort of birth defect, birth deformity, becoming a killer, just going after people, and even Belial, who's only like this big, even as an adult, because he's just this deformed, severed Siamese twin. Very low budget, very uniquely directed. Both have sequels, one of which is where there's more than one. I know It's Alive 2 has 3 of these babies. Then I think the third one is about how they multiply. I could be wrong, but like Belial has kids, I think, by the third one. And I've seen clips of the remake. I'm not interested regardless, but as much as I love Basket Case, I do think this is fun. And I've read some reviews. Someone said this was a ripoff of Rosemary's Baby. I don't know how at all, because the baby's not even born. And we don't even see the baby until the final scenes of the film. Even then, they don't show it. But, yeah, nothing like Rosemary's Baby. It has nothing to do with Satanism or anything either. But and even if it's not going for social commentary, if that's just something, that just popped out and I thought about, or even if it is social commentary, it's subtle enough that it's not beating you over the head with it. And I'm perfectly okay with it not being overly gory or it showing it eating, which when it does attack Charlie, which I think is when it reuses the cut from him jumping out of the leaves, it does show up close of his mouth, like biting down on some meat. That's about as graphic as it gets. But I don't mind that it doesn't show the actual, that the kills aren't longer and gorier. Because if I want that, I can just watch Basket Case. One other thing I forgot to mention is that we do get baby POV, which is like this distorted double vision, and that was because Cohen talked to some doctors and asked what a newborn baby's vision might be like, and this was the result of that. But yeah, I mean, it's not a great film. I mean, it has a really well done score. It's well acted all around, but I will say John P. Ryan does carry the movie very well, and I do like his arc, and I do think he acts the whole arc very well. Yeah, the effects are very dated, but it's Rick Baker. I mean, even if they look not that great or dated, there's still a charm to it. And yeah, just a cool idea of what if this monster baby was born that had the strength of adults and was just going on a rabid killing spree. I thought it was fun and entertaining. Since I don't own the sequels, I don't know when I would ever get to them, but maybe at some point. So that is Larry Cohen's 1974 film, It's Alive. Thank you for watching.